Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I think I'll stand for about 3 to 5 minutes between you and your lunch. And I was listening to some of the presentations, the learned people who are making the presentations here. I was asked that I should speak something on the cyber security and some related topic which is supposed to be in the next session after lunch. But I thought it's better to speak before lunch than after lunch. Don't you agree with me? Well, let me take you to a tangential path after all that theory of the e-governance and the obstacles and the transformation, empowerment, participation, and all that which has been talked about. I mean, very serious affair. Let me take you from here to something which is reasonably unusual. You will not be listening about it. And what I'm saying, speaking is not, I mean, I'm in the government. I work with the government, and my experience starts from 1986 when Madhya Pradesh government was negotiating with CMC for the computerization of their land records. 1986, let me tell you, that time, not even sufficient PCs were there. A spreadsheet had just been introduced in 1980s or something like that. So that time I was negotiating on behalf of the Madhya Pradesh government for the computerization of land records. And unfortunately today in 2012, can anybody say that we have good amount of computerization of land records in any of the states with reasonable GPS systems and the data? It's not there. And if you have any question, I'm open for the question. I can answer that. My saying is that I won't take much time. I can speak for 10 to 15 minutes. And whatever I'm speaking is on the net. If you Google my name and then this paper would be somewhere, you will find this paper somewhere there. If you do any kind of a e-governance, it leads to some kind of a transparency. You agree? I believe all of you agree. E-governance leads to transparency. And transparency leads to affecting the interest of some of the vested groups. Some of the interest groups who have some interest are hit by the transparency which gets generated in the process. Why? I mean, you see, RTI, what is RTI? Right to information. Why do you need an act for that? You need an act for that because the information was not being provided. You need an act for that. Because information was used as somebody's personal, power, personal storage, whatever it is, and then people used to extract premium on that information. And in order to avoid that premium, you needed RTI, you need right to information. So, let me come back. E-governance leads to transparency, and transparency leads to the affecting the interest of some of the vested interest groups. And what are those interest groups? Okay, those interest groups could be the political leadership, the higher bureaucracy, the lower bureaucracy, the landlords, anybody who has a group and holding some kind of interest. And that is the reason that whenever you go for e-governance, you lead to transparency, and then there are obstacles and hindrances for that e-governance projects. So whatever my learned colleagues were talking about is an effort, is the thing that how do you overcome that obstacle, how do you overcome that thing to implement that e-governance project for the delivery systems, to have the delivery, to have the systems reaching to the people. As I look at it, the issue probably is not the e-governance. The issue is that of the governance and the better governance. How do you have the good governance? E could be a tool. E is a tool for that. And technology probably provides, for the last 10, 15 or 20 years, technology provides an opportunity to overcome those transition from governance to good governance or to have some kind of a status of the governance. So technology provides you an opportunity. And we in this country, we are lucky. We have such a large pool of people, the resources in terms of the human capital, I mean, we have made our mark in the foreign countries, we have made our mark in the other countries. I mean, we have implemented many more systems, projects for the delivery systems in the other countries, probably rather than what we have done in this country. So we have a large resources of the people, those who can deliver, and that is why probably the E or the technology for the first time provides an opportunity for this country to leapfrog a few stages of the development. We missed on the industrial revolution, we missed on a whole lot of things, and the background of being a colonial country. With all that background, I say that we have a great opportunity for the delivery system, for the delivery of the mechanisms through this e-governance, and then how do we overcome those interest groups or those hindrances to deliver the things. I have many projects which I did implement in the state of Madhya Pradesh, being there in the Department of IT, in the Electronics Corporation and different various positions, Secretary Finance and all. We connected 263 treasuries of Madhya Pradesh through the VSAT because optical fiber was not had not reached at that point of time, so we went for VSATs and small things to connect all the treasuries and sub-treasuries, which is probably one of the best implementation of the treasuries and online clearance of government transactions. One could deposit the government dues also on the treasuries, which was in 2006 when we inaugurated it in Madhya Pradesh, was the best project as far as, but then the success of that project was because the most of it was G2G. When it comes to G2C, government to citizen, then again the problems do arise. I did another project, I mean, I'm just quoting the example, you can find it. There's a child record information system where you have I implemented it as a divisional commissioner of Jabalpur division, which had 8 districts and a population of about 1 crore in that division. Now, you have a system in which as soon as a pregnancy is socially declared, you have it on the net. The Anganwadi worker or the health worker enters it on the net, and then with a very simple kind of a software developed by the NIC, one could generate all the flags as to when this lady should be given the iron tablets and when inoculations, what kind of things, and then the expected date of delivery, so that, I mean, you can have an ambulance somewhere in the village, or you can also tie up with a institutional delivery and the things. So it was a live system. One could see it on the net. It was on the net, and one could see that in which village, on what date, how many deliveries are expected, and which lady would go to which hospital, and where from the ambulance will come. Now, this was a project which was a kind of a pilot project in 2007, implemented successfully. I won a couple of national awards on that, e-governance awards and all that, blah, blah, and then some international presentations I made on that. But then, this project is not yet implemented fully, even in the state of Madhya Pradesh. So these are some of the observations. I think I should not stand anymore. I mean, I'm open to the questions and I can answer things. I just wanted to give some food for your thought. I mean, just to think about it and then try to analyze. There's on the one side, there's a good amount of theories, good amount of things that how to implement a e-governance project, how to make it successful. On the other hand, I have given you a few examples and a little bit of theory, even if the e-governance projects, which I talked very well about in this country, but I don't know to what extent they lead to the transparency and to what extent they really meet the benchmarks or the parameters which they should meet. Even I would question the railway reservation system also. Thank you very much.